Hey, family, we are back with part two of the Heart Talk special Father's Day episode. Part one was amazing. But if you thought part one was crazy, part two is going to exceed all expectations. So here we go. Let's watch part two.
But I guess to get to my situation,
Yes.
I was never the type of I was never the type of guy that really thought about being a husband, really thought about being a dad. I knew at some point in my life that, hey, it's gonna happen. But, when I met my wife, it was more or less I'm dating. I'm dating still. So it is what it is. But I think as we got closer, and things started to develop between us, I started to get to a point where I said to myself, hey, I think this she might be the one. And something happened. There was a health scare within that time period, and that's when you have that epiphany that says, okay, I don't want to be without this woman. If she were to leave here today, there would be something missing in my life because she has something that I need. So that's where I think I made the decision, you know what, I got to put a ring on that. But even in the midst of my thinking that, did I really know how to be a husband? No, because coming from a divorce dynamic, I never saw that. Yeah, I saw my mom and my dad together early in life, but like I said, from the age of at the age of 7 or 8, I vividly remember my mom packing us up in the car and me leaving. I vividly remember that. I'll be 50 at the end of this month,
Woo,
and I still
congratulations.
remember. Well, thank you very
50.
much.
Yes.
But I still remember that. And kids remember things like that vividly, vividly. And was I prepared? No. Being transparent, has it been all gravy these 26 years? No. Have I messed up along the way? Yes. But I think being a growing up the way I did, I think that certain things started to solidify themselves in my mind and in my heart. And I knew that I did not want my kids to understand the dynamic that I grew up in. I didn't want my kids to be children of divorce. I didn't want my kids to grow up without their parents being together. I wanted them to see that throughout their childhood and throughout their lives. So I think that was one of the major points of, you know, me having to, like Ben says, you can't go in arrogant. You have to fix things along the way. And I think my wife and I will both tell you that throughout our relationship, we've grown together. It hasn't been me having to catch up to her type of thing. We've had to do this thing together because whereas you have to understand that you have your own life, she has her own life, and you're trying to put these two things together, and they're doing this the whole time, and you have to build and turn it. It's like a Rubik's cube. You have to fix that puzzle until it finally gets to a point where you can connect to each other, and you have to learn how to do that. And 26 years has taken us, quite a bit of ways to get there. And raising children along the way is is a whole set of dynamics within itself. Because you're dealing with you guys haven't gotten to the point I've seen, those teenage years when they start developing their own personalities, and all these dynamics start changing, when they get 9, 10, 11, 12, even more so 13, 14, 15, 16, and these questions come at you, and things that they remember that they've seen and they want answers to, and you have to be 100 with them as well and say, hey, Yeah. In transparency, it is it is a scary but amazing thing to have messed up in your marriage and have to explain that to your children and be man enough to explain that to your children as older children, because my oldest was 17, 18, things of that nature, and having to sit them down and explain that you gain respect and they actually understand the type of father that you want to be with them, and they understand the type of, especially your sons, they understand the type of father that they need to be in their lives with their own when their own kids, when you come to them like that. Because now that my sons are fathers, now they understand that I have to be honest with my kids. I have to have that level of honesty with them to where they respect me and to where they can come to me with any issues that they have.
Amen.
Okay. Amen. Amen. Anybody have any questions before we move on? Or go to me?
I want to say that's Brother Cornell, that's a very nice shirt you got on. I wanted to say that, Eric.
Listen, man, I keep trying. I was like, man, when you said you've been married 26 years, I'm like, he probably a little older. You said you must be 50. I'm gonna stop with all these jokes, man. But listen, bro, you got way too much money for me, brother.
Y'all see the thing?
Man, I see. Listen, all of our backgrounds, you the only one with a plant. Like, I'm telling you, brother. I ain't gonna say nothing
You have
else.
a very nice
Ahead,
bookshelf.
Hey, man.
You have a very nice bookshelf. That
Yeah, exactly.
I know.
feel very intelligent to me.
Yeah,
exactly. I got a bookshelf.
I would want to say, like, thank you for your story. What I hear from you is that, like, your manhood that you have developed, your fatherhood, your husbandhood, has been strengthened by levels of vulnerability, and that is a powerful message. Like, you have to be honest, you have to be vulnerable, and that is how you have found it most effective to parent your children, especially your male children. So that's what I hear from that, and that's what I'm going to take away from that story.
Very good. I mean, thank you, Shane. I mean, and that's part of what that's part of what that is. Having the vulnerability. I mean, there's one thing to be strong, and there's one thing to let your children see. That you don't have to be strong all the time. You don't have to, especially daughters. Like Ben, you have a daughter. Shane, you have a daughter now.
Yep. Now.
And I know you have daughters. You have a daughter, don't you, Chuck?
Yeah, I got 2 sons, 1 daughter.
Yep, you got same dynamic. I mean, and it's one thing for your sons to see strength and vulnerability, but it's another thing for your daughter to see vulnerability but strength. You see what I'm saying? It's kind of a reversed dynamic. So with your daughters, I mean, let them know that they can come to you with those sensitive issues. Let your sons know that they can come to you when they need strengthening, when they feel sensitive and they need, some backbone, you know, types of situations.
Brother Cornell, I got a question for you.
What's up?
Do you remember the point that your daughter no longer saw you as Superman? Because my daughter looks at me as Superman, and I know that's not going to last. And I wanted to know, do you remember the point when that changed? Oh, she still looks at you with Superman. I see it.
Yeah, I don't think. I was gonna say I don't think it has to change, man. Like
I
my
don't
dad,
think I
there.
don't think it
Yeah,
ever has to change.
yeah,
I don't think
yeah.
it ever has to change. And I always I look at it this way. My daughter, I'm kind of wondering, now that you've said that, I'm kind of wondering where my daughter actually sees me, you know, at this point in her life, you know. But my sons, I've always kind of okay. You remember the movie Boys in the Hood?
Yes.
Yes.
I've always kind of looked at I can't remember Cuba Gooding's character. I can't remember Trey. Was it Trey?
I think
Was
so.
it
I think
Trey?
so.
Okay.
I just think so.
Yeah, we're embarrassing
But
ourselves for know his name. It's okay.
yeah, right.
Our black card is definitely gone right now.
Yeah, somebody's punching it somewhere.
I can't find mine at all.
We're all in interracial relationships.
But his dad, Furious Styles, I do remember that name.
Furious style.
Yeah. My he was more so he was 100% my father growing up.
Mm.
Furious Styles was my father. Basically. The look, the attitude, everything about it was my father. My father was an intellectual, he was a guidance counselor, principal, um, all of his life, a very studious man. And he was pretty much Furious Styles. And I feel like I patterned my experience with my sons like Furious Styles, even to the point where when my oldest son actually saw Boys in the Hood, he actually called me Furious Styles sometimes. And it even the funny thing is the balls that he would use like this, I actually had some of those. So I would sit there in the living room and he would come to me with these issues and I'd be sitting there with these balls in my hand doing this. And he was like, Furious Styles all over again. So,
That make you feel
you
good?
know, it actually made me feel good. But to answer Ben's question, I actually really need to ask her now.
That's a good question.
Now that she's in her 20s, you know, where does she see me now? How does
I'll
she
just
see me?
I'll just talk like for my sisters and my dad. I don't think it goes away. I think your daughter's son, like your children. As long as you're a good father, they'll always appreciate you as being that Superman because they realize the type of man it takes to be a real father. You know, like I think the older you get, the more you appreciate that Superman aspect. Because at the end of the day, Superman on just to be a nerd right quick, on Krypton, Superman was regular. Now he couldn't fly on Krypton. He ain't have none of that sweet stuff on Krypton where he from. But it's
Mhm.
when you put him in this different environment, you see all the super
Better
stuff come out.
preach.
And I think for fathers like you, for as a father, you kind of look at him like, oh, he's just the regular dad at home. But when I see this difficult situation or when the environment gets tumultuous or when things change, I see things in him that I don't see anywhere else. And I think the
Mm.
older you get, the more you appreciate that from your
That's
father.
good.
Yeah,
I know,
that's
yeah.
good.
So
Hey, didn't Superman get his power from the sun?
yeah, his power came from the
Hey,
sun, but I mean, it's
hey, hey. I can do all things through Christ.
Hey, there it is right there.
Hey, hey.
Hey,
Right there.
Philippians, okay now.
But that's dope, you guys. So I'm gonna say mine. I'm trying to stay on schedule. So I'm gonna say mine quickly. Me and Tia. Okay, so originally me and Tia was she came to the campus. I met her through and we was doing the campaign for the 2012 election. So she went to Wright State. I went to Wilberforce University. So Wright State came over to our campus, and I saw her in the lunchroom. And Chuck was there as well. Because me and Chuck was always, especially Chuck, but definitely I was involved sometimes. But we was all over the campus all the time. And so when it came to the election, we wanted to be a part of it. We wanted to be leaders in that case. So when we all met in the lunchroom, I saw Tia. I'm like, yo, these eyes. Like she has hazel eyes. For those who don't know, And I've always been at that time. I mean, even now, I love my wife's eyes. You know, I guess I've gotten used to them, but I still love them. But at that time, I was a sucker for hazel eyes. I had to say it. I was a sucker for hazel eyes. Anybody was like, yo, yes, that's what I needed. You know. And so when I saw her, I just immediately looked at her, and I was watching her and everything like that. She went outside, and she was about to like mess with a black and mild. You know, I don't know if you guys know. But when somebody, it's called freaking. I just learned this. It's called freaking a black and mild. And so you do the little thing, and she was gonna do it. So Brandon, mind you, I'm just trying to shoot myself in. I say something like, "You know, we are a drug-free campus." You know what I'm saying?
That's the way to get them.
And so and she said, "What?" I said, we ain't supposed to be smoking on campus." You know, I was just trying to be, and I think during that time I was also an RA, so I was just I was using my power to try to get her at the time. And so I took the black and mild out of her hand and I threw it away.
Oh.
Yeah. But the thing about it is, you may say, "Oh," but she looked at it totally different. She was just like, "Oh." You said, "Oh, he like that." So we met that night. We met then, and then we just kind of hit it off. But the original intent was just honestly, because like Chuck was saying earlier, like I was just at that time, I was just trying to find somebody to just mess with at that time. So my mentality was, okay, I learned she go to Wright State. Okay, boom, I got a girl that go to a whole nother school, and if you ever went to Wilberforce, if you found somebody that did not go to Wilberforce, you hopped on that thing because it's a different atmosphere outside of the school. So I was like, oh, she go to Wilberforce, she go to Wright State, she got her own house, own car. Oh, we in there. But my mentality was, I was just trying to get some. That was my original mentality. And
so disappointed.
Shut up. And so and we started, we was messing around over but then it was something different though. Like, cause I went in, I just had a pre-relationship that was like very heartbreaking for me. And so I wasn't in the mood to have another relationship, and it was so crazy. Even though me and Tia was talking, but not like she always say this, we didn't, you say we don't start talking till like September. Cause during the month of August, we met August 4th. During the month of August, I just thought we was just, smashing.
Kicking it.
And I was doing my thing, and like, I know y'all doing like this. Look, we talk like, me and Tia talk like this. So y'all got to worry about her like what? This is how we talk. Okay, so, and Shane, y'all know my wife. Y'all know how she is. So this is what it is. But
beat us up. So
you good. But I was still talking to the girl that hurt me in the midst of me and Tia was talking, because I guess I wanted that relationship so bad, even though she hurt me, but I wasn't looking at what God gave me in front of me. And Tia taught me a valuable lesson in the sense that she straight up to her, she said, "Yo, if you want to be with me, like, be with me. Like, if you talk to her, go talk to her. If you and I've never been in a relationship through my life longer probably than a few months. I've never been in a relationship long. So when me and Tia started to get together and we was together, and like, it was not just sex, it was us building a relationship, and we started going through the stuff we was going through. We both were fighting stuff from our past. Tia was raised in a predominantly women household, so they taught her that she didn't have to be, dominated, or from society standpoint, dominated by men. You the lead, and so she had to learn that. And then with me, I'm like, yo, like, I've been taught to be the head. So we clashed in the beginning, but then over time, she started to want to grow. She started to want to be a better, at that time, just a girlfriend, a better husband, better boyfriend at the time. But then it got around like 2015, right? And she told me, like, yo, so what are we doing? We ain't gonna just be sitting here just not married. Like, we up here just living with each other and all this stuff. Do you want to be with me for the rest of your life? Do you see me being with somebody for the rest of your life? Or I'm just, just here. If I'm just here, I could just leave, what's the point? What's the purpose of this? And I had to get to the mentality, okay, this person has been in my life for umpteen years. It's 2015, so about 3 years now. What am I doing? What are we going to do? What am I going to do as a husband? As a man? Is this the person I want to spend the rest of my life with? Do I see her as a person to spend the rest of my life in and to bear my kids? Yes. So I made a decision to say, okay, well, we both made a decision. We had the most awkwardest marriage. I wanted to propose, so that's why I kept prolonging the relationship, like prolonging the proposal. She was like, yo, don't worry about it. Let's just go ahead and go down to the courthouse and let's pop this thing out. You know you want to be with me. I know you want to be with me. What's the point? She's like, my wife is totally different from the normal woman that want the, on the bending knee and everybody. She, at that time, she just like, yo, let's go ahead and knock this out. And so we both went to the courthouse. And we was like, okay, we're just going to go ahead and get married. And her family are the ones who said, okay, let's have a wedding. Because we was going to just get married at the courthouse and call it a day. So I kind of thank God for her. Because even though she was different, it fit me perfectly. Like,
Hey.
you know what I'm saying? Like, even though because in my mind, what I saw on TV and from other people, you had to, it was like this whole fantasy thing. Like, you got to just puff it all up. It has to be this big thing. And she taught me, no, I'm simple. If you love me, show me you love me and let's do this thing. And so it was perfect. Like Chuck said, it was like we just fit perfectly in this puzzle, even though we used to have arguments all the time and crazy stuff. And quickly, my last story, we almost got a divorce right after we got married. Right after.
That's how it works.
Right after. And the reason why we almost got a divorce was because my wife wanted marriage, but then once she got into marriage, she's like, wait, for the rest of my life? And so like it started, really hitting her. And so she'll start like starting fights and trying to just cause, static between us. And we was in a car one day and she was like, I just don't want to be married anymore. And like imagine, I cut off everybody, y'all. Like, before I got married, I said, yo, nobody else. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just me and you, because I hold marriage to a higher standard. So it's just me and her. So when she told me she did not want to be with me no more in that car, I start crying, like, fully. Because I'm like, yo, I know that God has you for me. And you don't want to be married to me right now. Like, we just got married a few months ago. We didn't even went through nothing yet. And I thank God for my aunt, because she and her husband that really helped us through that point. But that was something that we never shared anyone. Like, we literally about to get a divorce right after. So I thank God for that. But that was me and Tia, pretty much. And now we've grown together. I love her. We still have our ups and downs and our fights. Not fights. We don't fight anymore. When you get married, get into marriage often, I believe, the fights just turn into disagreements. Like, I don't yell at her anymore. For me, it was just more or less, I don't like you did that. I don't like it either. Okay, I'll go in the other room. You go in the other room. It's never like a fight anymore. So I thank God for her. So any questions before I move on?
Yes.
Sorry.
Yes. Yes. Question number 1.
Yes,
Nah, you said after, right. You said after that you reached after you got married, not too long after that, there was a moment where you almost got divorced.
Yeah.
And what do you see as what you were doing that may have contributed to that moment?
Yeah, that. But I think during that time, honestly, Ben, and this is totally honest, and she can like really admit to, she can attest to that as well. I was literally trying to be the best husband I could be. It wasn't even like I was contributing to that. I was in the sense of I have to, especially we brand new. I'm trying to be the best husband I could be. I'm cleaning stuff. I'm trying to, step into this role of being a husband. Because I had always this mentality or what I saw what a husband's supposed to be like. And this is what I've built in my mind. Okay, I have to be like this. I have to be like this. I have to be like that. I have to be like that. So I was trying to be that in every way I could. And I think that's what, for her, I think that's what kind of scared her off, because it was real. Before, when we was together, boyfriend and girlfriend, even though we was living with each other at that time, she still could have left at any time. She say this all the time. I could have left at any time during that moment, you know. But now we got married. It's not that anymore. Like it's literally like we together, and I think that's what caused the uncertainty in her. You know, because both of us, and we made sure in our vows, we seen so many broken marriages in our families. Like we hadn't seen a lot of families that were together for a long period of time. So we wanted to break that curse. We wanted to break that, and of course the enemy was in ears because like, oh, y'all ain't gonna break this. This has been generational. No, we wanted to break that at the root, and I believe that probably caused the riff in the beginning, and why we at that time ended up at that place we were at.
Copy that.
Any other questions?
3 years, and you were searching for a wife since you were 18. I just gotta say that real quick. And
the man.
And then
the man.
And then 2,
Shane has a point.
just want to comment on this whole story. But 2, what did you guys do to resolve that? Did you go? You said you had an uncle that helped you out. Did you do counseling? Like what?
Yeah. So for her, it got so bad for her. It was just like she was, like I said, we were in Burlington Coal Factory, in Cincinnati and Tri-County. I know people, like we're talking to everybody all over the place, but people that know, we were in that parking lot, and she said she couldn't do it no more. I was crying, and immediately at that time we had a really good relationship with and we still do have a great relationship with our aunt and our uncle, and those were kind of like our people that we looked to for guidance for our marriage, because that was our leaders in a sense. And so I called my aunt immediately. We were in the car. Called her immediately, like in the midst of that. And I'm yo, and this is just being real. I'm on the phone like, what we just in here? And she talking about you don't want to marry me though. Like we just got married. Like what you mean? Like I mean, it was crazy. Yeah, I was steak faced, y'all, and I was admit it. I was steak faced because I love my wife, and I wanted this to last. And I've seen too many cases that it didn't, and I refused to go through that again. So I had a mentality and a feeling like, no, this ain't happening. And I was gonna do whatever I needed to do to make sure this wasn't, personally, from my standpoint. And my aunt came in. She prayed right there on the phone. In the name of Jesus, I rebuke this. She went in right there without. Usually you call people, you tell me I'm going through something. All right, we'll pray for you. And we hang up the phone. No, she at that point, she pulled over and she went in and was like, "Yo, so y'all going to come into our house tomorrow." Like it was like already set in stone. We went out there and literally they kind of counseled us, then showed us what we needed to do, kind of gave us a mirror, to ourselves, and then and that's where Tia figured out why she was feeling the way she was feeling during that time. Yeah.
Amen.
Yeah. Any others?
No, I'm just glad you met Tia, man. I think I tell you this all the time, but knowing you, and I haven't known you as long as some of these guys have known you, but knowing you for the time that I did, man, I can't think of I can't think of anybody who could have been better for you. And I'm not even saying that I know Tia super well, but from the little I know of her and the time I see just how much better I've seen you become because of her as a direct result of Tia, man. I think that's it's I commend you all the time, man. So I'm just happy that you all are doing as well as you are, and I don't know who else is going to ever listen to this, but listen to your friends, because somebody told Brandon that they was going to be the first person to get married. Brandon ain't believe him. But listen to your friends.
Oh my gosh. Are you seriously doing it right now? Yes. So everybody out there, Chuck told me and my other friend that he was going to be the first one to get married, and he got married first. Boom. Now everybody know. Boom. You did it. Shoot. All right. but I like, before I move, I like what you said. You said that Tia has improved me. Since she's been in my life, I have become a better man because of her. And I'm not even talking about, yes, I've become a better man towards her. I'm talking about just a better man, period. She has got me to a point where she literally she has put, I call it like, I guess, guidelines in my life where it's like I check stuff now. I'm more aware. Like, it's just, she has made me a better man. Um, and I appreciate that for her. So yes, my wife has made me a better man. So these last few questions before we get up out of here. One question, it's kind of two-parter just to kind of get them out the way. Number one, with everything that's going on right now in the world, from the the racial injustice. We don't have to talk really deep into the racial injustice. I want to talk about it from being a father and raising kids in the midst of this. How are you raising your kids, or in your kids are at that point of to understand what's going on? What do you plan on doing, or how to raise your kids to kind of deal with what's going on in the world right now, from this racial injustice? And part two is, now that you are a husband, or now you are a father, and and those who are husbands, what are you done growing? What are your goals now that you are here? What do you plan on doing now? What are your I guess your goals that you want to reach in the future for you, and for you personally as a father? So we'll go ahead and do that. That's that great cycle. Go ahead, Mr. Shane.
All right, we understand both of these questions back to back.
Yes, please. We're going to try to get these knocked out.
So for what's happening today, we are doing a whole bunch of different stuff. I know that I have the responsibility of raising. My boy is going to be biracial, right? Genetically, he's biracial. He is half white and half black, but the world is going to see him as a black boy, because nobody's going to check his genes before they look at him and prejudge him. So I have to figure out exactly how to raise a black man in today's world, and the same for my daughter. How do I raise a black woman in today's world? So for them, as far as how to raise them as a father, we are making sure that they have proper representation in all of their books right now. We make sure that they know all these different things on race and prejudice and stuff like that. We use it in context of the age group that they can understand in, but we've realized that kids develop discrepancies in identity all the way down to like age 1, and then have fully formed identities by age 10. So we just make sure that we know different. We constantly talk about race in our house, and then I personally work on my own race stuff, Rachel as well. So that's kind of how we're handling it right now. Personally, I feel like it's not black people's job to educate white people, so I'm actually working right now to educate, using my own advanced knowledge of racial topics to educate other white people right now. And I think
I've been appreciating that. Shane's been posting on his Facebook randomly. I have about 745 friends on Facebook. Trying to see who want to talk about race today. He's been adamant, like almost every other day, he's bringing it to the forefront, and that's been like, so encouraging. Me and Tia like, that's why we love Shane.
I think Rachel, her perspective is that she's just trying to cope with it and just not be exhausted by it. But that's kind of how we're handling the race issue. And then from a standpoint of goals, I'm just trying to be the best provider and protector that I possibly can be. I think those were two of the biggest fatherly instincts that kicked in for me when I had my first child, and now that I have my second child, just newly born. Those instinct of being a protector and a provider are just so heightened for me. I don't know if any of you guys felt like those carnal instincts when you had your children, but I know for me it was primal almost. So I'm just trying to figure out how to be the best protector and provider for my family.
That's good stuff. Okay, Chuck.
Absolutely. For me, man, I've been you all may not know this about me. I'm like super militant black, like almost like weird about it. Like my son is a 5 now. He's 5. He'll be 6 in September. If you ask him, like, hey, can you take toys in the store? Nope. Why you can't take toys in the store? Because they may think you stole it, and the police come get you and take you to jail. And he knows,
Wow.
like, so this for me, man. I think the first time I never wanted I never wanted to be that way. Like I always grew up kind of really into like Black history and the Black experience and all that good stuff, and going to a Black college. It was always super important to me, but I never wanted my life or my son's life to be focused on his race. I didn't want him to ever have to really notice or think about it, make it a thing. But I remember in college, right at when I was getting ready, or had just left college, one or the other, but I had just had my son. Um, and I remember seeing the video of Tamir Rice be killed, and I remember the feeling and that thought that I can't raise him just to be him, right? I have to raise him with the understanding that like you're different, which is unfair to him because I want him to be a kid, and I try to make sure I let him be a kid. But I think with everything that's going on, my biggest thing is teaching him that you're you're different and you're special. And I have a daughter as well. So when we say our prayers at night, I make them reaffirm who they are. I'm black, I'm beautiful, I'm black, I'm brilliant, whatever it is. Like and it's that thing that the thing that people don't, I don't think people fear that we're black. I think that a lot of this stuff is just like inundated in some of our brains or whatever. And it's almost unintentional. It's like you said, like that primal thing that makes you want to protect your children or whatever. I think for some people it's almost like primal. And I teach them like, hey, that thing that people may see as invaluable, or that thing that makes them lash out at you that way, that's what makes you special. And that little piece of blackness, if you learn to hone it the proper way, you can do some great things. And it can't, no matter what the rest of the world tells you, it can't hold you back from anything. It can only propel you further if you allow it to. And that's my biggest thing in teaching them with everything going on, because we can't. There's nothing you can do to prevent your son from being from that happening to him. There's nothing we can do to prevent it. There's nothing you can do. All you can do is keep praying for them and keep them in a position that they try to navigate around those situations. That they don't get to, and also like building physical strength. Like something that's super important to me is like teaching my children, like, hey, be physically strong. So if something happens, you can, do what you have to do to try to maneuver, or try to finagle, try to do what you can. So it's keeping them with a mindset that you should never put yourself at the mercy of somebody who doesn't value as much as you're valued. And giving them that at home. So, and as far as like my goals as a husband or father, my goals, man, is just to continue to love my wife better, continue to raise my kids better, and continue to be better. And I don't think I said this, and I just want to say it because I'm sure Nadia will listen to this at some point. All of everything that I do as a father or as a man or anything like that is a direct result of my relationship with her. I'm not half the man I am if it isn't for my wife. I'm not half the father I am if it isn't for my wife. And I think over time, what I learned is that if I really want to be better, if I really want to be better for those babies, or if I really want to be a better, I'm a preacher, I want to be a better preacher. If I want to be a better servant of God, if I want to do any of this, it starts with my relationship with her, how I treat her. Am I giving her the time and the understanding, and that's my goal, to just learn to be more patient, to learn to be more kind, more loving, just be better all around for her, so that it reflects in the other aspects of my life.
Good stuff.
Amen.
Good stuff, man. All right, Ben.
All right, so the first part is about the racial climate, right?
Yeah, the racial climate, and but not like what's been going on, but just how you're intent on raising your daughter, or telling her, informing her how to navigate through this time.
Right. I got to be honest with it. That conversation doesn't come up as often as it pertains to like the police brutality and stuff like that. With my daughter, I know that for those know about colorism, those are the conversations I have with her, because her mom is more of a caramel peanut butter complexion, and I am not. As you can see by my lighting.
We don't.
And so,
why does it make you look like that?
Yeah, I am. You see, you get it from all angles. You see? Can't get away. But like just some of the things she would say that my daddy is black and my mommy is brown, or sometimes she would even say white sometimes, and it would be like I remember early on I turned it into like flavors like, no, your daddy's chocolate and your mommy's peanut butter, and we're a great Reese cup, all that. We had to change it, but I can tell early on that there was like a stigma against darker skinned people and lighter skinned African American. It was just like a stigma, and she caught on to that early. So that was pretty much a lot of our conversation. We don't have a lot of conversations about like maybe George Floyd or some of the police brutality situations, and maybe now that I hear about it, maybe I'll talk to her about it because maybe I'm sure she's heard about it, but she hasn't brought it up. And she hasn't been like, "Oh, Daddy, I'm scared for you to go out because I don't know what they're gonna do" or something like that. I haven't heard anything like that, so I might ask her about that next time.
And maybe that's contributed to her believing you're Superman.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe,
you know, her feeling like that's my dad. He, you know what I'm saying? But yeah, that's good.
Yeah, and I like I said, I have to ask her because we literally, I don't think we had any ever conversations about police brutality. She's more concerned about what I do for a living.
Already.
Deal with the teenage boys than about police brutality. So yeah, because she heard some stories about what I have to do here. So there's a whole nother conversation. But as it pertains to goals, man, I understand that my daughter has to be emotional. And I understand that I'm not all like that, but I'm trying to be like, how can I be a single father, like, and be there for her emotionally, and like when she cries out of nowhere, let it happen and just console her, and then try to deal with it afterwards. When she's with me, she's just with me, so it's like I'm a single father, and she's getting acclimated to how a grown man operates, and so she's learning that. She learns how to refer to her mom. My goal is that this divorce doesn't seem like it's as devastating as I think it is in her life. That yes, she can say that when she gets older that my parents were divorced, but she can also say that both my parents love me, both my parents care for me, and never at any point that I feel like I was tugged between the two at any point. Because like I said, I mean, we're parenting on another level now. So it's like not only am I trying to raise her up in the right way, I'm also trying to make sure that this separation from her mother doesn't scar her any more than it has to, because it's definitely outside of her control. She didn't ask for that. She didn't ask for that situation. So yeah, my goal is to make sure that and another thing is I'm actually trying to raise her to how would you handle being a wife or a woman and things like that from a man's perspective, because it's kind of ironic that like usually we raise our daughters to be mothers before we raise them to be wives. Like we'll get them baby dolls and they'll know how to raise a baby, how to feed a baby, how to do all these baby things. But when it comes to a husband, you don't learn that until you become a wife. Right. And it's like sometimes these conversations, like, cause she'll talk about, like, yeah, when I get a husband, and yeah, when I get this, and like some people feel like that's like you shouldn't be talking about that early. But I guess my mindset is we talk about anything else early. I mean, if we're talking about babies and how to raise them, like, doesn't marriage come first? Like, isn't that the prerequisite? So why would I teach you how to be a great mom before I give you my understanding on how to be a great wife or a woman? So, I mean, that's only what I can do in my household. So I know that she has her mom to teach her the other things, but those are things I try to teach her. And I'm her man until she gets one.
Jesus is her man. All right, Cordell, go ahead.
Speaking from a point of view of having already raised my kids, let me stop right there. I don't feel like you ever completely stop raising your kids. From the standpoint of this, they're always going to come to you looking for wisdom. And actually, I'll take the end of the second question first. They're always going to come to you looking for wisdom. And I feel like that's my job now. I'm done weaning them. It's almost just like the word says. You know, when you first learning about your walk with Christ, you're given milk. The more you get into the word, you're getting into the meat of the word. So now you're into the meat of life. So now my thing is to guide them with wisdom as far as the things that they didn't know about when they were kids. Getting that job that you want, dealing with resumes, how to file your taxes, how to deal with, paying your bills on time, how to deal with, life things, how to, deal with your own kids, when they come to you with an issue. It's like, well, what did I tell you? When you when you were growing up. Um I think the first part of that first question, my wife and I always raised our kids to rely on their intelligence. Rely on your intelligence. Educate yourself first. That way you can educate others. Educate yourself on who you are. Educate yourself scholastically. Make sure you know what you need to know to move into the portion of life that you want to move into. Um, my daughter, she had a more open book version of that, I guess, because she went to a school where there were plenty of other races. She's a graduate of Walnut Hills. So
Walnut.
she, yep. So she, if you're familiar with Walnut Hills, hush, Brandon.
Don't do that.
You know, you know that there is every creed walking around the halls. So, she's always had, experience with other races. My sons, they graduated from Woodward. But at the same time, I always try to instill in them, it doesn't matter about the color of your skin. It's the content in your character. I mean, to bring it around to Dr. King, you know, it's who you are. As long as people know who you are as a person, they kind of don't look at your skin color. If it's a face to face type of thing like this, yeah. If I'm talking to you man to man, you're learning who I am. If I come to you with compassion, if I come to you with an educated voice, you're more inclined to listen to me. And rather than me coming to you closed minded, and things of that nature. So you have to open yourself up to people. But there are those out there. I had to teach them that there are those out there that look at you specifically because of this. You have to still keep your head in all those situations. Make sure you're thinking. Don't think outside of the box that you need to. Because just like Chuck, I come from a very militant background. I mean, I was in school when we taught African American education. They don't teach that anymore. Black studies and things of that nature. I remember when I was in college, I actually tried to start a Black Panther party on my campus. That's just how militant I had gotten to a point. So I tried to instill all of that stuff into them as they were growing up. Yeah, it's okay to be militant. It's okay to have love of self. But at the same time, you have to have compassion for others in order to reach out and bridge those gaps in between. And, I'm hoping that that's worked. And in the conversations that I've had with them, and who their friends are and who they interact with, I think it has, and thank God that it has, and that they've listened over the years.
All right, thank you. Sounds good. I'm gonna hurry up and end this real quick on me. Basically, I'm just gonna love God Well, yeah, I'll probably have you do it then, babe. Sorry, y'all. But I'm just trying to focusing on God in this instance. God has been dealing with me with this whole situation with the racial injustice. We do not wrestle against flesh and blood, but against principalities that's in high places. So I've been really focusing in on that. Of course, I'm gonna teach my son later. You know, when he starts to understand what's going on, teach him what to do. Like Cornell said, just be smart. Think smart. Be ready. Like Chuck said, you know, be physical. Make sure you have some little girth on you. You know, and then like Shane said, just have all the literature around. Have the book so the person can see who they are and what they represent. And then after that, seek ye first the kingdom. Allow God to lead you in everything that I need to do, and lead me in everything that I need to do so I can become better in dealing with that type of stuff. Because I know it's crazy. You know, I'm angry. I get angry too, but I have to scale it back and kind of think of it spiritually. And once I think of it spiritually, I understand it's not the person, but it's the spirit behind it. So
Amen.
God has been dealing with me on that. And then for my goal is to just be a better husband and a better father to the best of my ability and be consistent. Consistency is the best thing. When I feel like I'm waving off a little bit, making sure I stay consistent, even though I get angry at my wife or angry at Solomon, just making sure I stay consistent and have grace towards them and understanding and listening. I want to be better in all of those aspects, and that's my goals for it. And so right before we leave, we got one more segment. It's called Lately. And real quickly, lately, of course, is a segment that we just kind of talk about what are some things that we've been listening to lately that has really had our attention, that's really awesome. Okay. Listening, I said it, listening, reading, podcast. See my producer is saying stuff in the background. But we're gonna do the same thing. Just go around the loop. Say your lately, what you've been listening to, and we'll go to the next one after that. So go ahead, Shane.
Lately, I have been listening to a guy named Tim Wise. He wrote a book called White Like Me, which is like a white guy talking about race stuff from a white perspective, which is great. And then I want to read, and I've heard this author speak. Her name is Dr. Harvey. I can't remember her first name. I think it's Rachel, but she has a book called Raising Anti-Racist Kids. So that's what I'm going to read.
Okay.
For me, I actually have the book here. What I've been on lately is Cry Like a Man by what's his name? Jason Wilson. He's actually he runs a organization here in Detroit called The Union. Phenomenal person, also a phenomenal beard. If you can't see it there, Jason Wilson's it's a great book, man. I've finished it through once. Been going through it again. It's really recent reading. Also, I'm gonna bring out the Kobe book. This is a great. No, real spill. This is a great. For any Kobe fans out there, this is a book you definitely got to add to your collection. They're kind of hard to find, and when you do find them, they can be a little bit expensive, but it's worth every penny, man. It's a great book to add to your collection, just about the life and times of Kobe Bryant, and also a lot of the lessons that he learned in between from making the mistakes that he made. So this is a great book to pick up. But those are my two, man.
Dope. Okay.
Oh, one more thing. Something else that I want to encourage you all to go out and look at. I think you can find it on YouTube, or you can definitely find it if you Google it. It's called the Brown Eyes Blue Eyes Experiment by Jane Elliott.
Yes.
For people who want to have conversations about race and stuff like that. I'm not to like single you out, Shane, but you didn't mention it. I think that's a great. No, seriously. I think that is a great space. Like for anyone who talks to someone who wants to like kind of get some beginner's perspective, Jane Elliott did a great piece called "The Brown Eyes Blue Eyes Experiment." So those are my things.
Okay,
cool. Yeah. Actually, I've been trying to get back and just reading the Word. Like actually last night, I forgot. I was talking to somebody. I don't know if it was one of you or something like that, but somebody led me to James chapter 1, and it's talking about faith producing endurance and dealing with hardships, and how when you deal with hardships, don't don't feel like that's some kind of odd thing. You got to look at it as an opportunity to show Christ. You got to look at it as an opportunity like, okay, God told me this was going to happen. Like anytime a hardship comes your way, you shouldn't be, oh man, why is this happening to me? No, this is, you was prepared for this.
Yeah.
And like every experience is here to strengthen you and to build you up to be more like Christ.
Yeah.
So if you look at it like that, like, okay, my God set this up for me to succeed in this situation, then I don't have to be upset and mad that the lady got my order wrong, or that somebody called me the N-word, or they're like, okay, this is my opportunity to express the Christ I claim I believe.
Okay, it's good. Okay, Cordell.
Actually, my wife actually got a couple of books a couple of weeks ago that she and I have been kind of pouring into, and it is 40 prayers for your wife and 40 prayers for your husband. I think that's the name of the title.
Yeah.
But and I'll get back to you.
Yeah.
I'll get back to you if that's actually the title of those books. I'll get back to you on that and the author form. But yeah, it's really interesting, and it teaches you basically how to pray for your wife or how to pray for your husband, you know, in writing down, you know, things that you notice or things that they need or things that you need or things that you notice that, you know, you need in your relationship, and how to further your relationship and how to reconnect that relationship with God more.
That's good. Good stuff. So I'm gonna be the one, because I'm a musical guy, to go away from the books. It's a song that I've been listening to lately that has been on repeat. I haven't heard it in a while, but I had to listen to it again. It's "Running Back to You" by Commission. If you know who Commissioned is, Fred Hammond's old group. And this song has just been great. Kind of been, like I said, replaying in my ear. And the verse that really gets me every single time, it says, using the same excuse that I am just a man. You've told me you've been there, and hold your nailed, scarred hand so I can see that now I am free. You know, too many times in life we just say, you know, I'm just a man. Like I can't do all this. I'm just a man. And Jesus was the example of I was too. And look, and I did it, you know. So he'll be an example for us. So that is a great, guys. I know this went longer than we expected, but it was a great conversation. I think we got a lot of good stuff out there. I want to thank Chuck for being a part of it. I want to thank Ben. I want to thank Cornell. I want to thank Shane. I appreciate you all. And right now I'm going to bring my co-host in real quick to give us, we got to do a little shout outs real quick. Come in the camera.
Hi.
And so
Hey.
go ahead and do the.
My hair was messed. I wasn't prepared. Yeah, we just want. Oh, okay. We just.
Go ahead. Just say it.
Hey, there's somebody behind you.
We go solo.
Shout out. So we're part of this group called Pod All the Time PN, and it's just where other podcasts, you know, network with each other and to bring more listeners. And so we wanted to just shout out our groups. Make sure you listen to them whenever you get a chance. The Looney Tunes podcast, and I'm going to be giving all of their Twitter, either their podcast or their Twitter handles. Thank you. So it's _RU_podcast ADC at Suburban Folk, Scarlet Podcast, Rod Sex Podcast 1, ITWDI Podcast, Two Studs in a Podcast, and 3 Ps Up in a Pod. So just go listen to those podcasts, you know, and if you want to. And my son, you want to say hi, Solo? Say hi. Hi.
Also, you guys, you can follow us.
Oh yeah, do I have to do that too?
I can do it. Or you can do it. It's easy. You can follow us on all of your favorite podcast platform. You can follow us on all of them. We are available on Podbean, Google Play,
Apple, Stitcher, Deezer, Spotify, just all of them really. And it's just the Heart Talk. You can follow us on Facebook, the Heart Talk Podcast. Follow us on Instagram at the Heart Talk Podcast. You can follow us on Twitter at the Heart Talkers. You can email us at the Heart Talk Podcast at gmail.com. And you can follow us or subscribe to us on YouTube, the Heart Talk Podcast.
And also, if you like to, give to us, our Cash App handle is DDAN08.
Or you can get to us on Podbean, also the hearttalk.podbean.com.
So I appreciate.
I'm trying to hear y'all, but Solo's like just
Solo just takes over. It doesn't matter. All right, so I thank everybody for coming in and tuning in with us again. Thank you for the panel, and like we always say, you guys have a great day, and we love you guys. And peace. Thank y'all.